Simon, you've been in this business a while. Could you give us an idea of your track record?
It's funny, it goes back a long way. Probably goes back to when I was 4, 5, 6-year-old. And I used to sort of, after school every day, used to go to the newsagents, which my mum and dad used to own in Carmarthen. So from day one, I was around newspapers. And this was in an era, of course, in the, I guess, early to mid-70s, when a lot of people bought newspapers. They'd all come in every day, and I used to help sort of mark up the papers from an early age. And so I guess newsprint was very much in my blood. But it's funny when you sort of only find out later in life what your plans were. I remember a few years ago bumping into someone in a chip shop queue, of all places. They said, the person said, "Oh, you're Simon Thomas." One of those embarrassing moments when you don't really recognise the person. Got chatting, and they said, "Oh, I was at school with you, but only a couple of years I moved school." And then they said to me, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I'm a journalist." And she said, "Oh, I remember you saying you wanted to do that." I thought, last time I saw this person was when I was 8 years old. So clearly somewhere along the lines at a very early age, I decided journalism was for me, and it proved to be the case.
Would you say that you're first and foremost a newspaper man, because you started off on one of the weeklies, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, my very first job was working with Work Experience in the Carmarthen Journal, my hometown. First paid job after I did a year's training in Cardiff was working with the Celtic titles in the valleys, and I worked for the Pontypridd title, the Merthyr title, the Aberdare title, Rhondda title, edited the Aberdare paper. So very much, a news person to start off with. And probably for the first 10 to 15 years of my career, print was everything, wasn't it? When the paper was put to bed, you could go to bed. But in the last probably 10 years, certainly the last 5 or 6, it's completely changed. And the focus has switched so much now towards digital. And I must admit, I found it a kind of give my career a fresh impetus and rejuvenated things, because I suppose maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, print sales were falling, you were wondering about the future of the industry. And certainly now, more people read my material than ever before, because the clue's in the title, it's a World Wide Web.
What are the differences in terms of the way you go about things, the way you go about your daily business, the things that you need to do as a sports journalist now?
I think the biggest thing with the change to digital journalism is that it's more 24/7 than ever before. You find yourself getting messages via social media, text, or whatever it may be, at whatever time of the day. And whereas in the past, it would be a case, well, okay, I'll go in tomorrow and write the story for the first edition of the Echo or for the Evening Western Mail. Now, it's within 5 minutes, you're looking to get it online. It is a complete 24/7 operation. If you want to, you can work non-stop. I wouldn't totally advise it, but you can do it if you want. And especially in the sports journalism, because there's always something happening. It's an industry which is fueled, like few others, by gossip and people chatting. People love nothing better than to tell you little bits of information. And the way in which I find out my material has changed an awful lot. And the way in which you contact people has changed a lot. For an example, probably 15 years ago, I would have the telephone number of probably every Wales Rugby international player. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's become much more controlled. Press officers have come in, and you very rarely have the opportunity to actually ring a big name player. You just wouldn't have their number. It's much more controlled. But there are now other forms of finding out information thanks to the internet. There's so many people, so many fans and fans forums and people sending you messages on social media, and it's changed. And I actually enjoy it more, although I do think the one thing that probably has changed more than anything, certainly in my area, which is rugby, is perhaps from when I started out, maybe some of the trust has gone between the sports person and the journalist, for various reasons, probably faults on both sides. So that has made life more difficult, which I think makes it more important than ever, especially in a job like mine where you cover a particular area. You have to generate and build that trust. And the only way of doing that is just by constantly sort of showing that you can be trusted with information. Because unlike in some industries where you can do it as a hit and run and maybe deal with someone once every 5 years, in my job you deal with people on a regular basis. You let them down once, they don't forget it. So it's building trust is the big challenge, I think.